a teen movie about pizza, pirate uniforms, and mall jobs. It launched 3 Oscar careers. It put vans on every foot in America, and it started with one guy going undercover in a real high school for a full year and writing down everything he heard. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 1982. The class photo nobody expected to matter. Here are 16 facts about the film that accidentally became a time capsule. Fact 1. Cameron Crowe enrolled in high school, not as a visitor, as a student. In 1979, Crowe was 22 and writing for Rolling Stone. He convinced the principal at Claremont High in San Diego to let him pose as a senior under the name Dave Cameron. 1 full year. Classes, cafeteria, pep rallies, all of it. He took notes on everything. The kid who had a pizza delivered mid-lecture. The parking lot conversations. The awkward dances. That's why the dialogue doesn't sound like adults guessing. It was transcribed from real hallways. When the book came out, the students at Claremont finally understood what the quiet older guy had been doing in homeroom. Fact 2. The entire cast is a list of people who almost weren't in it. Matthew Broderick was offered Spicoli, turned it down. Tom Hanks was considered for Brad, still a TV actor at the time. Jodie Foster was up for Stacy but chose to stay at Yale. Justine Bateman was offered Linda Barrett and passed for Family Ties. 4 near misses. 4 completely different films. What we got instead: Sean Penn, Judge Reinhold, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Phoebe Cates. Not one of them was the first choice. All of them became the only choice. Fact 3. Sean Penn refused to audition. Heckerling cast him from a hallway floor. Heckerling was walking past the casting office when she spotted Penn sitting on the floor, not performing, not preparing. Just sitting there like he was already somewhere else. Other actors had given better readings. Penn had something none of them did. She cast him immediately. He repaid her by spending the entire production insisting everyone call him Spicoli, not Sean, Spicoli. Other cast members called him Sean De Niro behind his back. He probably would have loved that. Fact 4. Nicolas Cage auditioned for Brad 10 or 11 times, then got bullied off the set. Cage, then 17, credited as Nicholas Coppola, auditioned for Brad 10 or 11 times. Rejected, too young to work the required hours. He got a background role as Brad's co-worker at All American Burger. Then the bullying started. Cast members kept quoting Apocalypse Now to his face. Being Francis Ford Coppola's nephew was the problem, not the advantage. Cage changed his last name to Cage, after Marvel's Luke Cage, and never used Coppola professionally again. Fast Times is the only film where he's credited under his real name. Fact 5. Judge Reinhold got the role because he lived upstairs from the director, Heckerling's upstairs neighbor. That's the whole story. She knew him. She cast him. Reinhold brought exactly what Brad needed. A guy you root for because you've been him. Humiliated at a summer job. Standing in a Captain Hook uniform at a red light. A casting decision that started with a shared building address became one of the most memorable performances in 80s comedy. Fact 6. Jennifer Jason Leigh actually worked at the pizza place for 3 weeks. Leigh was 20 when she was cast as 15-year-old Stacy. She reread her own high school diaries, then took a real job at Perry's Pizza in the Sherman Oaks Galleria, the actual restaurant where parts of the film were shot, for 3 weeks before cameras rolled. Not a visit, a job, shifts, orders, the rhythms of someone who shows up and does this every day. That level of preparation for a role most people would have phoned in. Fact 7. Forrest Whitaker showed up to his audition with opera students and got the role anyway. Whitaker was at the USC Conservatory when a friend told him about the film. He went to the audition with a group of opera classmates. That was just his world at the time. He got the part. Charles Jefferson, the football player with quiet fury and a destroyed Camaro, was Whitaker's first major film role. He left for San Francisco immediately after filming, unsure what came next. The Last King of Scotland was 24 years away. Fact 8. Led Zeppelin said no. Crowe had toured with them. Didn't matter. Crowe had profiled Zeppelin for Rolling Stone. He'd been on tour with them as a teenager. None of that moved the needle. In 1982, their catalog was locked. No movies. No exceptions. Even the 5-point plan scene, where Damone tells Rat to put on Led Zeppelin 4, had to use Kashmir from a different album due to publishing rights. Crowe's entire history with the band didn't get him one song. An undercover journalist in a real high school. Actors who weren't first choices. A studio that almost didn't know what it had. Up to this point, everything feels accidental. Then the film comes out, and suddenly, it isn't just a movie anymore. It's a reference point for how teenagers talk, how they act, what they care about. From here on, this isn't about production stories. It's about impact, and the details get sharper. Fact 9. The film was initially rated X. One scene had to be cut. The MPAA gave Fast Times an X rating on its first submission. The pool scene, Judge Reinhold's fantasy sequence, ran longer in the original cut. Heckerling had designed it with gender equality. The same nudity standards applied to both sexes. The MPAA disagreed. The scene was trimmed. The film got its R. Heckerling had to shorten the most talked about scene in the movie to get it into theaters at all. Fact 10. Moving in Stereo by the Cars is the most memorable music cue in the film. It wasn't on the soundtrack. Due to licensing constraints, the song permanently fused to the pool scene was left off the official 1982 soundtrack. Not on side A, not on side B. If you wanted it, you had to buy the Cars' 1978 debut album separately. The most unforgettable music cue in the film didn't make the film's own soundtrack. One job, Elektra Records. Fact 11. Sean Penn wore the Vans. Vans had no idea what was coming. Penn selected the black and white checkerboard slip-ons himself. Vans were a niche Southern California skate brand. If you weren't already in that world, you probably hadn't heard of them. Then Fast Times hit. Every kid from Maine to Montana needed those shoes. No product placement deal, no endorsement contract. Penn handed Vans a 90-minute national commercial for free. 40 years later, the same slip-ons are in every mall in America. Vans owes Sean Penn a pizza statue. Fact 12. The woman laughing at Brad in the Captain Hook uniform is Nancy Wilson from Heart, Barracuda, Crazy on You, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That Nancy Wilson. She was dating Cameron Crowe at the time and ended up in the scene almost by circumstance. They married in 1986. Wilson later composed the score for Almost Famous, Crowe's film about his teenage years as a rock journalist. The woman who laughed at Brad's worst moment eventually helped score one of the most beloved music films ever made. Fact 13. The studio demanded a wrap-up ending. Like American Graffiti, Universal mandated the film end with title cards updating each character, the same device used in American Graffiti. Heckerling included them. Spicoli saved Brooke Shields from drowning and blew the reward money hiring Van Halen to play his birthday party. The studio asked for closure. Heckerling gave them Spicoli. Fact 14. The film was shot entirely in 8 weeks on a budget of around $5 million. Mall scenes filmed at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, after hours. Ridgemont High is Van Nuys High School. The All-American Burger interior was a soundstage, assembled across locations that had nothing to do with each other. Nobody noticed. Budget, around $5 million. Domestic gross, over $27 million. Universal expected a modest return on a throwaway teen comedy. What they got was the template for an entire decade of films. Fact 15. In 2005, the Library of Congress added Fast Times to the National Film Registry. Culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Same designation as Citizen Kane, a mall comedy about a pizza delivery and a pirate uniform, preserved alongside the greatest films ever made, because it documented something real. What American teenagers actually sounded like in 1982. Cameron Crowe spent a year writing it down. The Library of Congress took 23 years to catch up. Fact 16. On the last day of filming, Sean Penn ordered a real pizza to the set and had it delivered to Ray Walston, in character, as Spicoli, to Mr. Hand. Penn stayed until the very last moment, and his final act was the same as his most iconic scene. A pizza, a classroom, no apology. Walston accepted without missing a beat. Some characters don't end when the director calls cut. They just stop being needed. An undercover journalist, 4 actors who weren't the first choice. A pair of shoes nobody paid for. A song that never made the soundtrack. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was a teen movie about nothing in particular. It's been in the National Film Registry for 20 years.